Chapter 7. Other people's money has no weight. Istanbul, 1976. The smell of gasoline, the luxury of nightclubs, cigarette smoke under spotlights. By 26, he already knew more than anyone else around him. He knew where the right people gathered who gave insider information, how to cash out a large bet, not leaving a trace, and most importantly, how not to fall in love with the game more than with victory. He lived in Istanbul in an apartment on the top floor of an old Armenian house. The balcony overlooked the Bosphorus. In the evenings, he listened to the hum of ships and imagined himself as a captain not of a vessel, but of a plan. He no longer played, he waged war. His strategies grew more complex, his stakes higher. People began to appear around him. Drivers, liaisons, bookmakers from whom he collected debts with a commission. Everyone wanted to be near him, but he kept his distance. He wasn't rich. He was dangerous. One evening, he entered the club Nefs. Everything there cost more than it should, which meant someone was behind it. He knew by the expressions on faces who was taking money, from whom, who was a gambler, who was a debtor, and who was a cheat. In the VIP section, he saw Cenk. He managed a network of underground bets. He was 10 years older but twice as foolish. He liked cheap watches and expensive show-offs. They had met in Gaziantep, but now Cenk was a boss in Istanbul, and he was trying to play big. "Kurt," he shouted, "they say you're going for money through mathematics now? Me, I'm still old school, gut feeling, friends, and a little luck." He sat down next to him, ordered expensive whiskey, which he couldn't afford, and started to brag. "I have a guy in the federation. Knows when in football it's by agreement. Want to play with me?" He smiled. Not because he wanted to, because he understood. The scheme was full of holes. He agreed. 2 days later, the match. Cenk said, "We bet on a draw." All their people loaded up. He bet too, but on the loss of the team that was supposed to throw the game. Why? Because he saw something in the protocol. A change of coach 2 days before the game. No player would risk throwing a game with a new, uncontrollable person at the helm. The match ended 2 o'clock. Everyone lost. He won. He walked out of the betting office, not hurrying. His trench coat, his wide-brimmed hat. He withdrew money in parts, through 4 different cashiers. 3 days later, nothing could be traced. And Cenk? He disappeared. For a week. And then came back with a bruised face and whispered, "Was that you?" He looked at him like a bet that had no odds. "I just didn't believe your information. And if you bet without checking, you've already lost." From that moment on, they began to truly fear him. One day, a man in an expensive coat came to him. Nameless, without an accent. "We heard. You can predict losses." "I don't predict. I read errors. We have a task. A series of bets. Delicate work." He looked at the envelope. There was money. In it, a lot. But its weight felt empty. He handed the envelope back. "I only play for myself. Because other people's money, it doesn't bring victory. Only problems." He knew. As soon as you take someone else's money, you start betting not with your own mind, but with their fears. That night, he opened a new notebook. On the cover, he neatly wrote, "Trust, the enemy of calculation." He understood that from now on, he would play alone. Without Cenk. Without Uzra. Without Layla. Without emotions. Without debts. Only him, information, and risk. Because everyone takes risks, but only those who aren't afraid to be alone with the silence after a bet win.